The news was peppered with all kinds of salacious things and retaliation against popular TV people, and oh, who knows what all was going on, but we'll be telling you about it, and I guess, well, you can have a little sense of outrage. But you've also heard of the Grinch who stole Christmas. Now the story is how the president stole our health care. Americans are seeing their plans canceled this holiday season. What a wonderful Christmas present. But Obama Claus has a solution. He wants kids to add his insurance to the top of their wish list. All right.
Well, that is the message in a new ad on BarackObama.com. It's just the latest attempt to salvage the struggling health care plan. Caitlin Burke has that story.
Last month, President Obama offered a fix to people who have lost their insurance coverage because of Obamacare.
We did fumble the ball on it, and what I'm going to do is make sure that we get it fixed.
His solution: allow people to keep their plans for an extra year. But experts like Ed Heiselmeyer from the Heritage Foundation say the fix is just as flawed as the law itself and will make things worse, not better.
I think it's going to get worse because then you have compounding effects over time as this plays out, likely resulting in higher premiums down the road.
Some families, like this one, say that was already happening even before the president's fix was in. Tyler and his daughter have insurance through work. His wife is covered on a separate policy. That policy was canceled, but then he got the option to keep it, temporarily.
They extended it for another year, so I do get it another year, but the premiums go up if you want to keep on it for another year for like $40.
Faced with those increased premiums, Tyler turned to the healthcare website to see if he could find a better option. But problems with the site kept him from being able to look at any potential plans.
Probably what's more than likely going to end up happening is I'll just put her on my insurance at work, which is going to be several hundreds of dollars more expensive.
Heiselmeyer says many other Americans are going to face that same reality.
When you look at the design of the legislation, it clearly has a number of features that make insurance in general, or at least for a lot of people, more expensive than it is today.
And another round of policy cancellations is on the horizon. A new report by the American Enterprise Institute shows that by 2014, at least half of Americans who get their health plans through work will receive cancellation notices. That's almost 80 million more people above and beyond those who've already received those notices. Tyler says Washington shouldn't be dictating personal health insurance decisions.
I think the thing that frustrates me most about not just me losing my coverage, but about the whole situation in general, is just that idea that the government can come in and say, you know, Tyler, the coverage that you have right now isn't best for your family. We're going to tell you this plan that's good for your family.
Caitlin Burke, CBN News.
Oh, we don't like Big Brother in America, but the Grinch is out there, and there's sadness. There was a editorial today about Obama. He's just so sad about how America's been destroyed under previous administrations, and he's not doing anything to fix it because people are in trouble, and around the world it's gloom and doom. Oh my goodness, we've got to get him out of there. But he's going to get out by action of law in another year or two. But in the meantime, what is America going to do? Well, hold fast and do an awful lot of praying. Well, investors may have an extra reason to celebrate this Christmas after the Federal Reserve delivered what was considered good news about the economy. John Jessup has more about that from our CBN News Bureau in Washington.
Pat, the Federal Reserve gave the strongest signal in years. The economy is getting back on track. The Fed announced it's going to slow down its economic stimulus plan. And as Charlene Israel reports, the market liked what it heard.
A vote of confidence by the Federal Reserve heard loud and clear on Wall Street. The Dow soared high above the 16,000 mark after gaining nearly 300 points, fueled by Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke's big announcement Wednesday.
Starting in January, we will be purchasing $75 billion of securities a month, reducing purchases of treasuries and mortgage-backed securities by $5 billion each.
In other words, the Fed is going to start scaling back its efforts to stimulate economic growth. Investors overwhelmingly approve of the Fed's latest actions, largely because it comes with assurances that interest rates will be kept low in order to keep the economy moving.
It certainly is a vote of confidence that the Fed has for the economic recovery.
Rates wouldn't be raised again until the jobless rate falls below 6.5%. It was at 7% in November. Bernanke said the Fed expects to continue reducing its bond buying program in measured steps in the new year. But it will all depend on how the economy performs in coming months.
The economy is continuing to make progress, but that it also has much farther to travel before conditions can be judged normal.
The Fed's bond buying program is designed to keep long-term interest rates low and encourage more borrowing and spending. But some analysts are skeptical it will work in the end. CBN News spoke with Bill Frezza from the Competitive Enterprise Institute. He says the Fed has only created an illusion of prosperity.
They've inflated asset prices and home mortgages thanks to their bond buying programs, and hoping that the economy fills in from behind, except for a very thin slice of very wealthy people who have become that way because of the money shoved into the banking system. I don't think the American people are seeing much for this.
If the Fed does continue at the pace it's set, the bond buying program would be complete towards the end of 2014. Charlene Israel, CBN News.
The president's advisors say the NSA needs to be reined in, but there's no guarantee he'll adopt their recommendations. President Obama handpicked a team to review the NSA surveillance programs following the infamous leaks by former NSA contractor Edward Snowden. That panel has now issued a 300-page report with at least 46 sweeping changes. The president says he's studying it, but he's already rejected the recommendation that a civilian should run the NSA instead of someone from the military.
The message to the NSA is now coming from every branch of government, from every corner of our nation. NSA, you've gone too far.
The panel also wants to limit the bulk of collection of Americans' phone records. It said such information was not essential to preventing attacks. Israeli lawmakers are making a push to allow Jews to pray at a disputed holy site. It's known to Muslims as the Noble Sanctuary and to Jews as the Temple Mount. There's currently a ban on Jewish prayer there, but this month, Israeli lawmakers asked Jordan to allow limited Jewish worship. Jordan oversees Muslim affairs at the site. Muslim authorities say if Jews are allowed to pray at the site, quote, there will be a lot of bloodshed. Muslims believe the Prophet Muhammad ascended to heaven from the Al-Aqsa Mosque on the Temple Mount, while Jews believe the Dome of the Rock on the Mount may be where the holiest part of the two ancient Jewish temples once stood and where a third will one day be built. Well, a star from the hit A&E reality show Duck Dynasty has been suspended after calling homosexuality a sin. 67-year-old Phil Robertson came under fire from gay activists after airing his views in GQ magazine. Asked for his definition of sin, Robertson said, start with homosexual behavior and just morph out from there. Executives at A&E say they were disappointed at Robertson's remarks and placed him on indefinite leave from the show. In a follow-up statement, Robertson said, I would never treat anyone with disrespect just because they're different from me. We are all created by the Almighty, and like him, I love all of humanity. And Pat, as you can imagine on social media, this created quite a stir from both Robertson's supporters and his critics.
Listen, I'm one of his supporters. I think he's a terrific guy, and I think that family's a terrific guy. I mean, terrific people, and that show has been a smash, and A&E would be committing suicide if they took it off. But what they've done is they're not going to tape any new shows this year. Well, they already have a whole year's in the can, as I understand it, so we'll be seeing Phil Robertson some more. But what he said is fundamental Christian truth. Homosexuality is a sin. Adultery is a sin.
Gluttony is a sin.
What? Gluttony is a sin. Envy is a sin. Slander is a sin. And if somebody says, what are the sins? Well, everybody who's slandering can go on the slander crusade and get us all taken off the air because we say slander is a sin. But it is. And the Bible makes it very clear that certain things are such that, quote, the land will vomit them out. Read Leviticus. It's in there very clearly. So if somebody believes the Bible, as Phil Robertson does, Then he said, what does the Bible say is said? He said, well, here's some of the things.
Well, the fact that their show, based on conservative family values, is so popular
They love it.
is a statement about the fact that there are many people in the country who would agree with him on that. We live in America. It's free,
He was
thought.
supposed to do his show with Barbara Walters. And, I like Barbara. She's a nice lady. But anyhow, he wanted to go hunting.
But here's how the media portrayed that. He dissed her. That's not a diss. That's just saying, I can't come now. It's hunting season.
That's shooting ducks.
My family hunts. Your family hunts.
My business is shooting ducks, not talking to TV tapes. Anyhow, that's what people love about them. They're not cookie cutters. So anyhow, I'm for Phil and his family, and we're going to get a couple of the ladies later on.
In fact, we're going to talk with all of the Robertson ladies about their Christmas values and some of their family traditions. So
I don't think
it's fun.
I'm kin to any of that branch of the Robertson family, but maybe they're.
I don't know.
Well, we're all descended from that noble Scotsman Duncan the Fat.
I think the only way we really know is if you grew a beard, and we could kind of compare.
I can do it. I gray and call ducks.
I'd like to see that.
Yeah. I don't like to shoot ducks and animals and things. I like to train animals, but not kill them.
But my kinfolk do.
Oh, my son and grandson, they're avid hunters. I mean, and my father was named Field and Stream Sportsman of the Year. Sportsman of the Year. Oh, man, he hunted and fished in the Robertson-Pittman Stamp Tax
So see,
Act.
somewhere back in that family lineage.
Well, you better believe it. I mean, but they have collected $5 billion in his legislation to help migratory game birds. So my family side has done more than Phil and his family side to make more ducks. So
the gauntlet's been thrown down.
That's right. So Phil, you can shoot the ducks that my daddy made available for you. Okay, what's next, John?
That's a news headline. Every year, church attendance increases during the holiday season, but the true meaning of Christmas is lost on Americans. A new survey by the Pew Research Center finds only 50% of Americans consider Christmas a religious holiday. 1/3 consider Christmas just a cultural celebration. Still, nearly 75% say they believe Jesus was born to a virgin, and 54% of those surveyed say they will attend a Christmas service this year. Well, one of the world's largest churches is working to teach people the true reason for the season. Paul Strand was on hand to witness their spectacular and colossal Christmas production.
At Prestonwood Baptist in Plano, Texas, the gift of Christmas presents more than 1,000 people working their way through song after song and dance after dance. Dazzling effects like high wire acts, and even fireworks right inside the sanctuary. But all working towards a divine point and purpose in the end.
We do it so big and bodacious right here in Texas, everything is big in Texas, because we want to magnify Christ.
Of course, Christmas is magic to children, so they look forward to this production all year. But frankly, it's so big and wonderful, so do many of the adults.
A lot of it is fun and even wacky. There was even a filmed kids' nativity.
As Joseph gazed on the Son of God, he was like, "Way to go, Mary! We did it!" And Mary was like, "We?"
At the climax of it all is a massive live nativity scene with camels, kings, and flying angels, all meant to point to the center of attention, the creator of the universe, who came as an innocent babe to die for the sins of the world.
Jesus is the gift of Christmas, and when you know Him, you're connected with God, you have a brand new life, your sins are forgiven, and you have the promise and the hope of heaven. What could be better than that?
For Prestonwood Baptist, this isn't just about Christmas. It's very much about Jesus Christ and the gift that He's brought to everyone. Paul Strand, CBN News, reporting from Prestonwood Baptist Church outside Dallas, Texas.
For Unto Us a Child is Born, Unto Us a Son is Given. Pat, that looked like a phenomenal production.
I tell you, I'm only in Texas would you say anything like that. You know, in our Baptist church in Lexington, Virginia, when I was growing up, you know, you got an old bathrobe and put it on and you were a wise man.
Exactly.
You may have a couple of guys in a camel suit wandering around, but I mean, this thing, I mean, that is awesome, just awesome.
Wow.
Only in Texas would you see a production like that. I mean, they rival anything they do in Broadway. Well, congratulations to Prestonwood Baptist. It's a big church and a growing church. But that's wonderful.
That is.
God bless them.
The Southern Baptist Convention is criticizing a federal ruling about polygamy in Utah. The convention's top public policy official says decriminalizing polygamy puts vulnerable women and children at risk, and that the ruling also undermines the Bible's definition of marriage as between one man and one woman. The decision handed down by a federal judge last week says a Utah law that forbids cohabitation with another person violates the First Amendment. While the ruling does not legalize multiple marriages, it means polygamous families who live together cannot be prosecuted. Well, half of the terror suspects at Guantanamo Bay could be closer to heading home. A bipartisan congressional deal gives President Obama a victory in his fight to close the prison. The deal would lift the most rigid restrictions on detainee transfers overseas, but the president could still face big obstacles. Congress has effectively blocked his efforts to release Gitmo prisoners for the last 5 years. The Justice Department is delaying plans to indict Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell. The Republican governor has been under fire for a donation scandal. The Washington Post reports McDonnell is accused of illegally promoting a company in exchange for gifts. But McDonnell's attorney headed to Washington to argue he's done nothing wrong. Now, justice officials have decided not to take McDonnell's case to a grand jury this week. Pat, what's your take on this case?
Bob McDonnell's been one of the best governors Virginia's had in recent memory. He's been a superb governor. He's been scrupulously honest. He has, in my opinion, done absolutely nothing wrong. He has a wife who is trying to promote a vitamin company that makes vitamins in Virginia. So the vitamin company owner was very generous with her, but we can't find, at least they really haven't found any evidence that he did anything wrong, that Bob McDonnell, the governor, did anything wrong. But you know, they say that you could indict a ham sandwich if you wanted to, and they could indict Santa Claus on Christmas Eve. It doesn't take much to go before a grand jury and get an indictment. But we are litigation happy, we're indictment happy. We've got a culture where if you don't like somebody, we'll get them indicted. Well, okay, fine. Well, then that means a long trial. And I don't think the U.S. attorney is going to try to push this, the Justice Department. It doesn't make sense, and I think without question Bob McDonnell would win, but what an awful expensive thing. It'll cost at least $1 million or more to defend it. And, you know, according to the laws of Virginia, in my opinion, he hadn't done anything wrong. And so what are they going to do? But I think you ought to pray for him. He's a graduate of Regent University and a very fine person, a very fine friend. And as I say, he's made a wonderful governor. And this thing came up because his wife just really doesn't understand certain of the niceties that go along with that high office and what you could do in terms of your friends, and people try to take advantage of her.
Well, and everybody, no matter who you are or which party you're in, has enemies, and they look for those things that can be exploded in the media. And
it's so easy to do it, but you know, the law is that somebody gives you money and then you give them a state benefit in exchange for it. As far as it can be determined, there was no benefit given to anybody for anything. He got some gifts, his wife did, and daughter. But as far as we can tell, he didn't do anything for the state. They had a reception in the mansion, but that was a private affair paid for by somebody else. But anyhow, we'll see what happens. But I just hope and pray the Justice Department will relent and they won't do that. This is just not a good thing for a man who served his country and served his state very nobly and very well. over the years.